Imagine this. For 65 years, my life in this quiet suburban home had been predictable. Wake up, tend to the garden, maybe a cup of tea with Mrs. Henderson next door, an early dinner, and then bed. Rinse and repeat. I loved my routine, truly, but deep down, there was a tiny, persistent whisper of something more. Something I'd always yearned for but never dared to chase. Then, one Tuesday, everything exploded. Not with a bang, but with a lottery ticket. A single slip of paper that promised a future I could only dream of. I won. Not a small amount, not a comfortable sum. I won enough to never worry about money again. Enough to finally chase that whisper. My heart soared. Oh, the possibilities. My first thought, naturally, was Sarah, my daughter, my only child. I envisioned helping her with her mortgage, perhaps setting up a trust for my grandchildren. A grand gesture of love, a way to secure our family's future. But then I heard the words. Words that weren't shouted, not even loud, but they cut deeper than any knife. Mom, you're too old to help anyone. You just need to relax. Let me handle this money. It'll be better for everyone. My world didn't just stop, it shattered. The joy, the hope, the dreams, all turned to dust in that single, cruel sentence. And in that moment, I knew. My life, as I knew it, was over. And a new one, a bolder one, was about to begin. What would you do if a single sentence shattered your biggest dream? Share your thoughts below. Backhand index pointing down. And if Evelyn's journey resonates with you, make sure to subscribe for more inspiring life stories. Before the win, a different kind of price. Imagine waking up every single day feeling like a beloved, yet somewhat dusty, ornament on a mantelpiece. That was my life for years, truly. Not terrible, mind you. Comfortable even in its own quiet way. But always, always in the background. My daughter, Sarah, bless her heart, meant well. Oh, I truly believe she did. But her constant well-meaning often felt like a thick, suffocating blanket, slowly but surely smothering every ounce of my own light. It started subtly. Mom, you really shouldn't be lifting that heavy bag of groceries, she'd say, even if it was just a few apples. My hands, still capable, would hover awkwardly. Then came the "Are you absolutely sure you want to drive all the way to Aunt Carol's alone? That's quite a stretch for you now, isn't it?" Even though I'd been driving confidently for over 50 years. Each gentle suggestion, each carefully worded concern, felt like a tiny, invisible chip away at my independence. I slowly, almost imperceptibly, started believing it myself. I was indeed fragile. I was old. My capabilities were dwindling. My opinions seemed to shrink too. Oh, Mom, you don't really understand how the internet works, do you? Or it's a bit complicated, Mom, just let me handle the bills. Soon, Sarah handled everything. From my monthly finances to my doctor's appointments, even deciding what groceries I truly needed. I'd just nod, offer a polite smile, and retreat deeper into my gardening, my comforting books, my perfectly predictable, quiet routines. My life became a meticulously curated existence, meticulously defined by Sarah's ever-present expectations of what a good, aging mother should be. Sarah wasn't overtly cruel, not like some of those awful stories you hear. No, Sarah was far more subtle, and in a way, that made it almost impossible to fight. It was the constant, gentle nudging. The barely audible sighs when I suggested something a little adventurous, like volunteering at the community center or taking a painting class. Oh, the worried glances she'd exchange with my grandchildren when I dared to mention anything outside my designated quiet comfort zone. Mom just needs to relax and enjoy her golden years, she'd tell them, often with a sympathetic pat on my shoulder. Golden years, they felt more like rusty ones, slowly seizing up, trapping me in a life that wasn't quite my own. I loved my daughter fiercely with every fiber of my being. She was my only child, my world. But somewhere along the way, buried under layers of her well-intentioned control and my own quiet compliance, I'd lost a significant piece of myself. I was Evelyn, Sarah's mother, yes, but I was becoming less and less just Evelyn. The vibrant woman who once dreamed of faraway lands, the woman who took risks, that Evelyn was slowly, sadly fading into the background, a silent echo in my own life. A silent, growing resentment began to fester, quiet as a mouse but persistent. Oh, the weariness of it all, from silent resignation to a spark of desperate hope. A crumpled ticket, a lifetime's longing, a sudden, blinding light. It was a Tuesday, just a regular, utterly unremarkable Tuesday. The kind of day that usually blurred into all the others, marked only by what I had for lunch or if the hydrangeas needed watering. I had picked up my weekly lottery ticket at the corner store, a habit I'd kept for decades, mostly out of sheer routine than any real expectation of winning. Honestly, it was just a tiny, harmless indulgence, a quiet rebellion against the predictable monotony. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table, a lukewarm cup of tea beside me, idly checking the numbers in the newspaper. One by one, I ticked them off on my crumpled ticket. The first matched. My heart fluttered a bit. Oh, how nice. A few dollars back, the second matched. A little gasp escaped me. The third. My hand, suddenly trembling, went to my mouth. No, it couldn't be. Then the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth number. They all lined up. Perfectly, my vision blurred. The newspaper slipped from my fingers, fluttering to the floor. I couldn't breathe. My mind, usually so orderly and calm, was a dizzying whirlwind of numbers. Million. It said million. Not a comfortable sum, not a nice little nest egg. A fortune, an honest-to-goodness, life-changing fortune. I, Evelyn Miller, a woman who meticulously budgeted every single grocery trip, had just won the lottery. $1 million. $1 million. Oh, the sheer, unbelievable, breathtaking joy. I didn't scream. I didn't jump. I just sat there, my whole body humming with disbelief, a radiant, almost youthful glow spreading across my face. It was like every cell in my body, dormant for so long, had suddenly woken up, buzzing with electrifying possibility. My mind raced, not with grand luxuries for myself, but with thoughts of Sarah, my precious daughter. Oh, the things I could do for her. Her mortgage was a constant burden. I could clear it. I could set up a proper college fund for my grandchildren, something I'd always worried about. This wasn't just money. It was a way to truly help my family, to secure their future, to finally prove my worth in a tangible way. But then, as the initial euphoria began to settle, a different, quieter thought, a long-buried whisper, gently nudged its way to the forefront of my mind. It was a faint memory, a dusty old photograph tucked away in the attic of my mind, a brochure I'd picked up decades ago, promising cobbled streets, ancient castles, and sun-drenched vineyards. Europe, Italy, France. Places I'd only ever seen on television, places Sarah had always dismissed as too much trouble or not practical when I'd even mildly hinted at wanting to travel. My European dream. I'd packed it away so neatly, folded it so carefully, I'd almost forgotten it existed. But now, with $1 million in my grasp, that dream wasn't just a dusty brochure anymore. It was a key. A shining, golden key to a universe of possibilities. For me, The money was more than just cash, it was freedom. It was a second chance. It was the whisper of a life I'd always yearned for, now roaring to life. The thought brought a nervous flutter to my stomach, but underneath it, a thrilling tremor of excitement. I could actually do it. I could actually live. The next step was obvious, yet terrifying. With my heart pounding with a dizzying mix of hope and anticipation, I knew exactly what I needed to do next. I had to share this incredible news. I had to tell Sarah. I couldn't wait to tell her all about the life that was finally, gloriously unfolding. Oh, if only I knew what awaited. The words that cut deeper than any knife. With my heart practically bursting with a giddy mix of hope and sheer terror, I couldn't wait to tell Sarah. I dialed her number, my finger hovering, then finally pressed call. My voice, usually so steady, trembled just a little as I blurted out the news. "Sarah, darling, you won't believe it. I won the lottery, $1 million. The silence on the other end felt like an eternity. Then her voice, Mom. "1 million? Are you serious? Oh my God, Mom, that's incredible." Relief washed over me. Ah, she's happy for me. I heard her laugh, a genuine, joyful sound that echoed my own elation. For a glorious minute, we were just mother and daughter sharing an unbelievable moment. That night, Sarah insisted on coming over immediately. "We have to celebrate, Mom. This is huge," she chirped. She arrived with a bottle of sparkling cider, her eyes wide, practically gleaming. We sat at my kitchen table, the very same table where I discovered my fortune, and I started sketching out my ideas, my heart absolutely overflowing with generosity. "So I was thinking," I began, my voice bubbling with excitement, "we can pay off your mortgage, darling. Completely. No more stressing about those payments. And for the kids, a proper college fund, something solid, not just a little savings account. They deserve the best, truly." Sarah listened, nodding, her eyes sparkling. I felt so incredibly useful, so purposeful. This was it. This was my chance to truly help them, to be the strong, capable mother I always wanted to be for her, beyond just daily comforts. Then I took a deep breath, my courage gathering. And I was thinking maybe, just maybe, I could finally take that trip. To Europe, like I always dreamed. Just a small tour, nothing too grand, but a real adventure before, I trailed off, a hopeful, tentative smile on my face. The air in the kitchen suddenly changed. Sarah's smile, so bright moments before, faltered. Her eyes, which had been gleaming with excitement, now narrowed ever so slightly. A subtle shift, barely perceptible, but I felt it. The warmth left the room. Sarah's voice, initially calm, but with an underlying, chilling condescension, "Mom. That's so sweet of you to think of us, really. And the college fund, yes, absolutely brilliant idea. But Europe, Mom, come on, be realistic." My heart sank, my smile wavered. "Oh, here we go." Evelyn, voice soft, a little pleading, "But I have the money now, darling. And I've always wanted to see those old castles, those beautiful streets." Sarah cutting me off, her tone firm, almost dismissive, as if speaking to a child. "Mom. You're 65, you're not getting any younger, are you? You really shouldn't be traveling alone. All that walking, the time changes, navigating foreign countries, it's just too much. Honestly." Each word was a tiny, precisely aimed dagger. I felt a cold dread spread through me. "Evelyn, my voice barely a whisper, a desperate plea, but I feel wonderful. I'm perfectly healthy, Sarah. I can take care of myself." Sarah sighs heavily, a sound laced with exasperation, as if I were being unreasonable. "Mom. Look, let's be practical. You won a lot of money, yes, and that's fantastic. but you're too old to help anyone with trips or big adventures. You just need to relax, enjoy your retirement. Seriously, let me handle this money, it'll be better for everyone. I can invest it properly, make sure it lasts, for our future. The room spun. The words hit me like a physical blow. Too old to help, me, Evelyn Miller. The woman who had sacrificed, who had put every single one of her own dreams on hold, who had meticulously budgeted, pinched pennies, worked every extra shift, all for them. And now, with the means to finally live, to truly help, I was told I was too old. My own daughter, the very child I had poured my entire life into, my vision blurred. It wasn't just the words, it was the tone, the casual dismissal. The utter lack of respect for my autonomy, my dreams, my very being. I felt a burning, humiliating flush spread from my neck to my face. I was reduced to a fragile, incompetent elder, stripped of agency, even in my moment of unprecedented fortune. My heart didn't just break, it fractured into a million tiny, irreparable pieces. All my grand plans, my bubbling joy, my long-buried dreams, they lay shattered at my feet. The golden key I just found suddenly felt like a heavy, useless piece of iron. Oh, the agony. The shattered pieces of my dreams scattered across that kitchen floor, but in their glittering fragments, a new, fierce resolve began to spark. If I was too old to help, perhaps I was just old enough to truly live. And so, a quiet, defiant plan began to form in my wounded heart. The world narrowed, then exploded. My defiance had found its wings. The shattered pieces of my dreams still felt scattered across that kitchen floor, lingering like invisible dust motes in the air. Sarah's words, "too old to help," echoed relentlessly in my mind, a cruel, mocking refrain. For days, I barely moved from my armchair, lost in a haze of hurt and disbelief. The lottery win, once a beacon of dazzling hope, now felt like a heavy, ironic joke. What was the point of $1 million if I was deemed too useless to even spend it how I wished? Then, slowly, something began to shift. A tiny, defiant spark ignited deep within that wounded heart. If I was too old to help, perhaps I was just old enough to finally, truly live. The thought was terrifying, yet exhilarating. It was a defiant whisper, growing louder and louder. My money, my life. I remembered that dusty old Europe brochure tucked away in a forgotten drawer. I pulled it out, my fingers tracing the images of sun-drenched Italian villages and bustling Parisian streets. This wasn't just a fantasy anymore. This was a possibility, a glorious, terrifying, utterly liberating possibility. My first call was to a travel agency, not Sarah. My voice was shaky, but my resolve was steel. I inquired about long-term rentals in Florence, Italy, a city I'd always dreamed of. The agent, a young, cheerful woman, didn't question my age. She simply asked, "How wonderful. When would you like to depart?" Oh, the sheer joy of that question. Next came the practicalities. I spent days online, researching visas, international banks, even Italian cooking classes. The more I planned, the more vibrant I felt. Each small step was a defiant act against Sarah's judgment. I felt a surge of energy I hadn't known in years, a youthful vigor that made me forget my aching knees. Who said I was too old anyway? When I finally told Sarah, her reaction was predictable, yet still managed to sting. I called her, my heart pounding. Evelyn, voice firm, betraying none of the tremor in her hands. "Sarah, I've made some decisions about the lottery winnings. I'm moving to Italy." Silence, a stunned, shocked silence. Sarah, voice tight, sharp with disbelief. "Mom, Are you insane? Italy, alone? You can't be serious. You don't speak a word of Italian. What about your doctor? What about us? What about the money? Her words were a torrent of panic and thinly veiled anger. She saw the $1 million slipping from her grasp and me slipping from her control. Evelyn, taking a deep breath, standing tall. I am serious, Sarah. And I'll learn. As for the money, it's going with me. It's my money, darling, and it's for my future now. I've already made arrangements. I leave in 2 weeks. Sarah's fury erupted. She yelled, she cried, she tried to guilt-trip me. You're abandoning us. After everything I've done for you. This is selfish, Mom. Utterly selfish. Her words were like venom, designed to make me doubt myself, to pull me back into that familiar, suffocating blanket of control. But this time, they didn't work. Each angry word, each desperate plea from her, only solidified my resolve. I had spent decades living for others, being Mom. Now it was my turn to be Evelyn, the woman who once dreamed. The woman who would now live. Oh, the fierce freedom. Packing was cathartic. I shed years of accumulated clutter, shedding old expectations with each discarded item. I kept only what truly mattered, what truly felt like me. A few cherished photos, my favorite tea set, a small, worn journal. Everything else was a new beginning. The day came. I stood at the airport gate, my small suitcase beside me, a one-way ticket to Florence clutched in my hand. Sarah wasn't there. She refused to come, still furious, still convinced I was making the biggest mistake of my life. A pang of sadness, yes. A deep, undeniable ache for the daughter I loved. But underneath it, a thrilling tremor of excitement. A sense of boundless liberation. As the plane lifted off the runway, carrying me higher and higher, I looked down at the shrinking landscape of the life I was leaving behind. The familiar houses, the tiny cars, and the suffocating shadow Sarah had cast over my golden years. But now, as the clouds embraced the plane, I felt the glorious sun on my face. A new sun, a new dawn. And for the first time in a very long time, I felt truly, wonderfully, utterly free, ready to embrace the boundless unknowns of a life finally lived on my own terms. Europe wasn't just a place, it was a mirror showing me who I truly was. The landing in Florence was soft, almost a whisper, a gentle welcome to a world I'd only dared to dream of. Stepping off that plane, the very air felt different. Fresher, lighter. It wasn't just the intoxicating scent of unfamiliar Italian spices mingling with the crisp autumn air. It was the overwhelming, exhilarating fragrance of pure, unadulterated freedom. Sarah's suffocating shadow, which had clung to me for so long like a damp blanket, felt miles and miles away, utterly lost somewhere over the vast, sparkling Atlantic. Oh, the sheer, breathtaking exhilaration that surged through my veins. My little apartment, nestled on a charming, cobblestone side street, was precisely what I'd imagined. It was tiny, yes, but bursting with character. Ancient wooden beams crisscrossing the ceiling, sun-bleached terracotta tiles underfoot, and a small, wrought-iron balcony that opened onto a bustling piazza. Every morning, I'd wake not to the insistent buzz of Sarah's early morning text messages, but to the melodious, ancient chime of church bells echoing across the city, quickly joined by the cheerful clatter of coffee cups and the rhythmic, warm hum of Italian voices drifting up from the cafes below. It was heaven, absolute, unadulterated heaven. My first few weeks were a delightful, bewildering blur of discovery. Armed with a pocket phrasebook and a heart full of curiosity, I wandered the ancient, winding streets, completely lost in the beautiful maze of history and timeless beauty. I let myself get delightfully, perfectly lost, discovering hidden fountains and tiny artisan shops overflowing with wonders. I signed up for an intensive Italian cooking class. My clumsy attempts at hand-rolling pasta met with cheerful, booming encouragement from Chef Enzo, a man whose passion for food was as immense as his waistline. My tongue stumbled hilariously over the rolling Rs and the unfamiliar pronunciations, but my spirit soared with every new delicious word learned, every perfectly al dente bite. Bellissimo! Oh, how alive I felt. I even started painting again, something I hadn't touched since my adventurous, rebellious youth. For decades, my artistic endeavors had been packed away, deemed impractical by Sarah. But here, in the golden light of Tuscany, my canvases, once filled with muted, hesitant landscapes, now exploded with the vibrant greens of rolling hillsides, the fiery oranges of Roman sunsets, and the deep, rich blues of the Mediterranean Sea. Each stroke felt like reclaiming a lost piece of myself, a vibrant color that Sarah's well-meaning concerns had unwittingly dulled for far too long. I found myself laughing more freely and loudly, sometimes even at my own ridiculous mistakes, a joyous, uninhibited sound I hadn't heard from myself in years. It was the rich, full-throated laugh of a woman finally, gloriously, breathing. My new circle of friends was a wonderfully diverse, wonderfully accepting bunch. There was Isabella, a sprightly retired art history teacher with mischievous eyes, who insisted on dragging me to every obscure, breathtaking gallery and ancient ruin. And Marco, the kindly, perpetually smiling owner of the local cafe, who patiently, endlessly taught me how to order my cappuccino just right in perfect Italian. They saw Evelyn, the curious, adventurous woman with a vibrant spirit, not Sarah's mom who needed constant looking after. They treated me with genuine respect, valuing my stories, my opinions, my very presence. It was a revelation. Imagine that, a revelation in my twilight years. I hiked through sun-drenched olive groves, my legs surprisingly strong. I tasted local wines that sang on my tongue, rich with the history of the land. I even braved a bustling, chaotic local market, armed with my trusty, dog-eared phrasebook and a newfound, almost fearless confidence. Every experience, no matter how small, a perfectly ripened fig, a conversation with a street musician, a moment of quiet contemplation in an ancient church felt monumental, a tiny piece of a grand mosaic. Each breathtaking sunset over the majestic Arno River, painting the sky in fiery hues, felt like a deeply personal triumph. I wasn't just existing anymore, I was living. Truly, vibrantly living. The worries about my age, my diminishing capabilities, the constant anxieties of being a burden, they all melted away under the warm, liberating Italian sun. I was stronger, more resilient, and infinitely more joyful than I had ever been under Sarah's well-meaning, yet suffocating, care. This was my true renaissance, my glorious rebirth. As I flourished, blooming in my new, vibrant world, an unexpected echo from the old one, quiet at first, then growing louder, began to stir, slowly, uncertainly, making its way across the vast miles. Some bonds are never truly broken, only reshaped by distance and time. As I flourished, blooming like one of my beloved Florentine roses in my new, vibrant world, an unexpected echo from the old one, quiet at first, then growing louder, began to stir. It was a subtle pull, a faint tug at the thread that still connected me to Sarah. I'd muted most of her calls in those first few months, the sharp memory of her dismissive words too raw, too painful. But as my own happiness grew, so did a quiet, almost reluctant curiosity about her. Sarah, it turned out, hadn't been doing so well without my constant, albeit suffocating, presence. The initial excitement of my lottery win had, I gathered from the terse, infrequent voicemails, turned into frustration when I didn't just hand over the reins. She had tried, I knew, to manage her own finances more strictly, to deal with the children's endless demands alone. The calls became less accusatory, more bewildered. "Mom, are you really okay? Are you sure you're not lonely?" Her voice, once so full of certainty, now held a tremor of genuine worry. Then came the email. Not a text, not a call, but a formal, almost hesitant email. Sarah wanted to visit, to see how I was doing. My heart fluttered with a mix of dread and a tiny, almost imperceptible spark of hope. Could she have changed? Or was it just the money she truly missed, or the comfortable predictability of having me nearby? Oh, the skepticism was strong. I agreed. A few weeks later, I stood at Florence's Santa Maria Novella train station, a place usually filled with joyful reunions. I saw her, Sarah, looking thinner, a little more worn than I remembered, her usual crisp composure slightly ruffled. When her eyes met mine, there was no immediate rush, no tearful embrace. Just a hesitant, almost awkward glance. Sarah, voice soft, almost timid, a stark contrast to her usual assertiveness. "Mom, you look good, different." Evelyn, a small, polite smile. "Florence agrees with me." "And you, darling, how are things?" The first few days were stiff. We walked through piazzas, visited museums, ate delicious food. Sarah tried to steer the conversation back to practical matters. My health, my finances, how sensible it would be to consider moving back closer to family. Her old habits, like ghosts, still lingered. Sarah, over a delightful pasta lunch, trying to sound casual. "Mom, this is lovely, truly. But don't you miss, well, your life, your routine? It must be a lot to manage all this alone. You know, if you ever felt like coming back, even for a while, we could." Evelyn, meeting her gaze directly, firmly but without anger. "Sarah, my life is here. My routine is exactly what I choose it to be, and I am managing perfectly. I am not alone, I have wonderful friends, I am finally living." Sarah flinched. She looked down at her plate, a flush creeping up her neck. For the first time, she truly seemed to hear me. Not as an aging mother needing care, but as an independent woman making her own choices. One evening, after a particularly beautiful sunset over the Arno, we sat in silence on my tiny balcony. Sarah finally broke it. Sarah, voice quiet, vulnerable, almost a whisper. "Mom, when you left, I was so angry. I called you selfish. But I think I was just scared. And maybe I was jealous of your courage, of finding this. I'm sorry, Mom, I was wrong. You were never too old. You were just too much for me to control." My heart ached, not with pain, but with a profound mix of relief and sorrow. It wasn't a full apology, but it was honest. It was a beginning. I reached out and gently took her hand, something we hadn't done in years without it feeling forced. Evelyn, squeezing her hand gently, tears pricking her eyes. "Oh, Sarah, we all make mistakes. I made them too. But we're here now, and we're talking, that's what matters." It wasn't a grand, tearful reconciliation. There were no dramatic embraces, but in that moment, our bond, though stretched thin by distance and hurt, began to redefine itself. It was no longer about control, but about acceptance. Not about what I could do for her, but about who I was and who she was learning to see. The lines of expectation had blurred, replaced by a fragile, new understanding. Our connection, though forever changed, had found a new, quieter rhythm. And as the seasons turned, so too did the final, beautiful chapter of my unexpected journey. True wealth isn't counted in dollars. It's measured in laughter, freedom, and an unbreakable spirit. Years melted away like snowflakes under the warm Florentine sun. I was still Evelyn, of course, but a vastly different Evelyn. The woman who once felt defined by a quiet routine and a daughter's expectations had blossomed into someone I barely recognized. Vibrant, adventurous, truly, utterly alive. My little apartment, once a novel escape, was now simply home. My Italian, once a stumbling effort, flowed effortlessly, peppered with cheerful local slang. Chef Enzo still boomed his compliments in cooking class, and Isabella still dragged me to obscure galleries. But now, I was often leading the way, my eyes sparkling with new discoveries. I spent my days immersed in everything I loved. I painted, my canvases bursting with colors Sarah had never imagined. I volunteered at a local community center, teaching basic English to new immigrants, finding immense joy in their eager faces. I even joined a hiking club my legs, once deemed too old, now carried me through breathtaking Tuscan landscapes, proving every unspoken doubt wrong. The $1 million, that shimmering key, had opened a door not to endless luxury, but to boundless experiences, to a life rich with laughter, learning, and genuine connection. It was more than I could have ever dreamed. Sarah visited regularly now, sometimes bringing the grandchildren, who were growing into wonderful, curious teenagers. Our relationship, though forever changed, had settled into a quiet, respectful rhythm. There were no more heated arguments, no more condescending tones. She saw me, truly saw me, for the first time. She saw the woman who had dared to choose herself, who had found happiness on her own terms. It wasn't always easy. Sometimes I'd catch a flicker of regret in her eyes, a quiet sorrow for the years lost, for the version of me she'd tried to control. And sometimes a pang of sadness would hit me too, for the daughter I wished had understood sooner. But mostly, there was a profound acceptance. One beautiful evening, sitting on my tiny balcony overlooking the twinkling lights of Florence, I reflected on it all. Sarah had just left, after a lovely, easy visit. I had a glass of local wine in my hand, the air filled with the scent of night-blooming jasmine. The journey, from that kitchen table to this Florentine balcony, felt like a lifetime. Evelyn, I used to think my life's greatest purpose was to be a good mother, to sacrifice everything for my child. And in a way, it was. But I learned something else, something far more profound. True wealth isn't counted in dollars or in how much you can provide for others. It's counted in the breaths you take, the joys you find, the fears you conquer. It's in the quiet confidence that blossoms when you realize your value isn't tied to someone else's approval, or your age, or even your ability to help in the way others expect. I smiled, looking up at the vast, star-filled Italian sky. Evelyn, my daughter, said I was too old to help, and perhaps, in her narrow view, I was. But by choosing myself, by moving across an ocean with nothing but a lottery ticket and a defiant heart, I had, ironically, helped her. I had shown her that life doesn't end when youth fades. That happiness isn't a gift given by others, but a journey you embark on yourself. And that the greatest legacy isn't money or control, but the courage to live your own truth. Oh, what a glorious, unexpected adventure it had been. And so, under the infinite Italian sky, I finally understood the profound truth that had eluded me for a lifetime. My richest years weren't behind me, but here, now, truly lived. This story, my European dream in twilight years, is more than just about winning the lottery or moving to a new country. It's a powerful testament to the human spirit's ability to reclaim its own narrative, no matter the age. It's about finding your voice when others try to silence it, and discovering that your worth isn't defined by expectations, but by the courage to live authentically. Evelyn's journey reminds us that life doesn't end when youth fades. True happiness isn't a destination. It's a journey fueled by self-discovery, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of what truly makes your heart sing. Sometimes, the greatest gifts aren't what you receive, but the freedom you claim for yourself. Did Evelyn's story resonate with you? Have you ever felt too old or overlooked, only to find a new purpose? Share your own stories of reclaiming your life or pursuing a long-lost dream in the comments below. Let's celebrate the boundless possibilities that await us at any age. Your journey could inspire someone else to take their own leap of faith.